internet is not going to be too slow because perfect. All right. Hi, Laylee. I am so excited to have you here today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and yeah, who you serve and how you serve them?
Okay, well, first of all, I am so excited to be here with you. I love you so much. Amanda is the queen. I'm so excited. I'm Laylee Emadi, and I have known Amanda for a long time. And now I am who I serve. Let's see. I serve creative entrepreneurs who want to become industry educators and leaders and or those who are currently serving their own communities as a leader or as an educator. So whether that's as a speaker who goes and speaks at conferences or public events, or maybe you're a course creator, a YouTuber, a podcaster, anybody who takes what they know and they help other people grow and they monetize their knowledge. That's who I serve.
And for those that are just finding this on YouTube and haven't met me yet, I'm Amanda Warfield. I'm a simplicity focused content marketing strategist and copywriter, and I am on a mission to help course creators and educators make a bigger impact in less time. So we go live here every single Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific Time, and we're so glad you're here because today we're going to talk all about the state of online education, what's working, what's not, and just some common myths. So, Laylee, what got you into this? How did you even end up in this space? Because I know it's quite a journey. For those that Laylee was like, oh, we've been connected for a while. Um, I Laylee started a mastermind years ago, and I was like, "Here's my money, take it." It was an incredible experience, and I feel like we could talk about this, but all too often in the education space, that's not the case. You hand over your money, and then you go, "That was a mistake," and that was not the case with Laylee, and I have been like, "Take my money," very often since then. So, how did you get here though? Because I know that that was quite a journey for you. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so excited to have the conversation about like the state of the education space and to continue that and even just to dive deeper into what you said about, normally when you hand somebody your money, you're like, what did I just do? And it doesn't pan out. And so like talking about that's going to be super fun for us. But for me, I got into this field within our creative industry really organically. Like my journey was very much, I feel like it was a little bit different than most of the other people that I know who do what I do, where I was actually a high school teacher and curriculum designer for my school district. And then at the same time, I was a photographer on the side. Like it was just my creative side hustle, loved it. And then as it started to grow, I went full time into photography. And then that led to my former students asking me for help with a camera, which led to former students and their parents starting their speaking and seeing there was this huge gap between the other industry educators and the knowledge that they were trying to impart on their students. And they just didn't know how to teach what they did well. And they didn't know how to do it in a really ethical way where there was like actual transformation happening because they never learned how to create curriculums that would then, you know, turn around and create these actual great transformations for their students. And so seeing that gap, I just really tried to bridge it. And then a course coach, and it was just and a conference founder. And so now I have the Creative Educator Conference and I have the Educators Lounge, which is a membership that also helps creatives, scale and learn how to teach and how to do all the things that you need to do to monetize.
Yeah. Man, your conference is truly it is a conference that I was like, for as long as you're doing it, you're gonna see me there. And it's funny because working at a church now, the busiest time of year is Christmas and then in the lead up to Easter. And your
Yeah.
conference is in March this coming year. And I told my boss, I was like, I'm gonna need to be gone. I know like this is the worst time of year for me to leave. Because I also our hometown. And I'm like, I know that Easter is the worst possible time for me to leave. But this is not an option. I'm going to this conference. So it's so worth it. It's so great. And you do such, I mean, I told you this last year at the conference, but you're so good at hosting. Like you're truly made for hosting conferences. And it's so exciting to be in the door because you, and I think it's that curriculum design coming out is, the more I think about it, I think it's that aspect of like, how do I take people from A to Z or
Yeah.
A to B or A to whatever we're trying to accomplish here? And it's that classroom experience that you're bringing into the conference. And you did it with the mastermind, and you do it in the educators labs. Like that is truly what I think so many educators are missing, and why so many of us feel that education fatigue, where when online courses really like burst into the scene in 2020, 2019, everyone wanted to do one. Like you said, they missed that curriculum piece. They all bought a bunch of bad courses, and now we're like, well, I don't want to learn anymore.
Yeah.
So how do you how do we overcome that as educators that are trying to sell courses? How do we let people know that it's not, we're not just regurgitating, thought leadership, but we're actually teaching a transformation?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many ways to combat that. I think the first one and the one that you can't skip over is having results that were tested before you actually take somebody's money. Um, and this is like a hill I will die on. And I just, there's so, and of course there are exceptions to every rule, but I think the majority of people who teach on monetizing education, they're really big about pushing this message that you can test things on paying clients. And I think that again, there are exceptions. There are times where that's appropriate. Maybe if you're an established educator who's already taught a bunch of stuff, but if it's your first time ever doing anything and you're like, let me create a course idea, sell it in 3 days, pre-sell it, and then teach it, like the risks that are involved with that, to me, the risk reward is so low because the risk is so high, the reward is so low, and your reputation is just so at stake. It's like you're a baby in this new like niche of education, and your first foray should never be one that leaves a bad taste in someone's mouth because you only get one reputation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's like the biggest thing that I would say. And also, sorry to backtrack, I just want to say thank you for the kind words. That
Oh,
was so like, I was literally like, hold it together, don't cry. But that was really nice. So thanks.
oh, welcome. No thanks necessary. It's just truth, just facts. Um, so that, I guess my question, what I should have asked first is,
Mm.
how do you do that?
Mm.
What tips do you have? And obviously, like, we're not going to go deep into like, how do you create a full curriculum? But like, how do you make sure that you're teaching something that isn't just thoughts, but is an
Mhm.
actual transformation. Because I don't think I know that for a long time it was being taught like, oh, it's okay if you already have all of this on your YouTube channel. People will just, because it's all in one place, people will buy it. And it's like, no, that's not going to teach them anything. That's not going to be a transformation. We don't want courses that are just a bunch of information.
Right.
We want that transformation. And so, how do you make sure you're giving a transformation?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing there, I mean, like you said, we could dive deep and like I would be happy to do that, but it'd probably take a really long time. Um, you really want to look at what what is it that you want to teach that you want somebody to walk away having achieved or having learned or understood. So there's like a couple of different, I guess, outcomes that you could want for your student. Like I said, one would be achieving something, actually getting something done. Another
Mm.
would be, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, my cat just jumped on my lap. Yeah, it's
Hello,
kitten
Gracie.
time. But yeah, so it could be an achievement, something that you want them to have learned, to walk away like actually having done. The other outcome would be wanting someone to understand something better and be able to apply that. I swear I have my phone on do not disturb. I don't know why it's not. It's letting people disturb me. But anyway, the next one could be learning how to actually understand, like understanding something, learning something. Like maybe it's not achievement based, but maybe it's like an understanding, a deep knowledge base. There's so on and so forth. So I think one, understanding what is the type of outcome you want your student to have. Two, I think is then creating a plan around what does that person need broken down, not by what you would need, because you, the expert, you're not going to need a lot to walk away with that transformation. But what is somebody who has no idea what you're talking about? And maybe they do. So you really have to know your student too. But where is your student? And then understanding talking like the what's it called? The two circles that overlap in the middle. Oh my gosh. Venn diagram. Yes. If like call like
Venn
clearly
diagram.
the teacher in me is like always thinking in Venn diagrams, but like if you can see what is the outcome and then on the other side is like where's your student and in the middle is the type of education, how much be in the middle and what's going to actually create that transformation. And that's probably like the fastest and like most high level summary I could probably give people like a good understanding of where to at least start.
You always have to work backwards. What is the end result that you want? For everyone
Yeah,
that
for
is
sure.
joining us live, if you have any questions for Laylee about curriculum or anything else that we're covering, make sure you drop them in the live chat. But if someone wanted to dive deeper into curriculum with you, what would be the best place for them to go? Do you still have your course, or what's the best place for them to learn more about creating a curriculum for a course?
Yeah, so we have the Creative Educator Academy, which is currently because another thing I really believe in for education is that you don't just create a course and then leave it there for years. So the first iteration of the Creative Educator Academy was in 2019. So every couple of years, I basically go in, audit it myself, and then change any changes that need to be made. So it's not open at the time of this recording, but yeah, if you head to layleemadi.com, you can find a bunch of resources in my shop. And then I do offer for those who are really serious about creating their courses or creating a talk as a speaker, I do offer one-on-one coaching as well.
Amazing. I will link to the course itself and all of Laylee's links in the show notes and the description here, guys, so that you can check that out because truly her education is the best. So many details about curriculum, but we have so many things to cover. So I want to make sure that if that's something that you know, okay, I want to make sure my curriculum's top notch. You guys can go check that course out.
Mm.
So I'm curious what you're seeing in the online and as an educator is probably a lot different from what you're seeing as someone who works with educators versus well, and also different scenes. So what are you seeing behind the scenes in the education space right now?
I see so many things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. My husband walked in and I thought it was a murderer. It's fine. Anything else, like open a door quietly, and it was the most terrifying thing I did not hear you. Hi.
You're like, thank you for being quiet while I'm recording, but also, oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
Too quiet. Too quiet. Man hand. Oh my
I
God.
love it.
Okay. He's making like stabbing motions now.
I
He's
love
messing
it.
with me. Anyway, I'm so interested to hear what like you're seeing. I'm sweating now. Your perspective as somebody who works with educators too, you work with course creators, and you probably are doing like you're aware, right? You're hyper aware, and you're aware as an educator yourself. But for me, I'm seeing a lot of new trends of people, and I'm excited and wary of all these things. And I just want to put that out there, like before I say my 2 cents on all of this. From the beginning, I've always been excited about seeing people try new things, and also very wary and for amazing things and a lot of potential for not so amazing things. So that's like my caveat to all of this. But one thing I'm seeing a lot of is the return for larger companies, but what I'm seeing a ton of is smaller creators, educators creating things like conferences, retreats, masterminds that meet ticket offers coming back. And then on the flip side, I'm seeing a lot of low ticket, low touch, and I'm not seeing as much. I feel like I've noticed a lot of like product membership, low ticket, and a lot of in-person high 10 off course.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. I'm seeing a lot of that. Although I will say that's something I've noticed within my after buying courses,
Mhm.
which for a long time I was leaning more like I want high touch or
Yep.
I want low touch. I don't want in the middle. And so I found that interesting just noticing like my own patterns lately is I want
Yeah.
more of that middle ground, but meditation that I can take and implement, take and
Yes.
implement. So instead of like hiring someone to do something for
Yes.
me, I can just take and do it myself with the help of a course. And so I'm seeing more of
Yeah.
that middle ground
Mhm.
that's not high touch and not just like here's a
Yeah.
template, but is a okay,
Especially
here's a
on, I feel like
process.
I am seeing some people like pick up the reins. I feel like it's slowed down, but just recently, Sarah Erickson, who we both know, Sarah and Design, she is a Pinterest with you.
Mm-hmm.
And after years and years of being like, you need to get your genius of Pinteresting into a course so that people can learn it and do it. Like, I mean, I probably will have one of my team members do it, but I need them to understand it, and I don't
Right.
understand it. So, she's finally coming out with a mini course, and I am seeing like an uptick in like the good. The thing that just I'm also seeing with the uptick of these things is that a lot of them are falling flat, and a lot of events, as you know firsthand, are so difficult, and they are not. I think they're not quite as glamorous as they seem on and I think a lot of people are unprepared for that, and so they deliver not really what they want to deliver,
Mm-hmm.
and people aren't getting what they want out of them. And then, like I said, you only have one reputation, and it's hard to bounce back from
Yeah,
that. It's also just hard to sell
absolutely.
tickets to stuff in
Because there's so
person.
many options now. It's okay, well, actually
Yeah.
brings me to
Mhm.
this is kind of one of the myths people feeling like, well, I can't be a course creator because I don't have a
Mhm.
large audience. Not to you.
Anymore, but I have not run into it yet. I don't have a huge my first course we launched in 2019 or 2018, and I've not honestly I mean, we all have launches that don't go the way we want, but generally
Mm-hmm.
speaking, I've not had an issue with that. I think audience quality over quantity. Like, you've got to have the right fit. You have to have something at the end of the day that people want to learn about, and that people need help with, and then you have to deliver on that. So I would just say that that's such a massive myth, and I get it because it does lead to a lot of imposter syndrome and a lot of comparison. Um, but after, the best way to beat those feelings is to actually like do it and sell it. And audience size does not matter when it comes to actually selling. I know people with massive audiences that cannot move a course to save their lives. And when they come to me and I audit it, I'm like, well, it's the outcome that you want. We find the problem, but the problem is not audience size.
Mm-hmm. Well, and just going back to what you said about reputation, I mean, even if you have a small audience and it's, you sell the course a
Mhm.
few times, if it's a great course,
Yeah.
they're going to share about it and they're going to tell other people about it, which is, there's a ripple effect if you're actually putting out a quality course.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
With myths about it, actually, before we go into that, what if someone is like, I'm kind of interested in online education, I'm kind of interested in creating a course, creation's right for them, um, slash who would make a good online educator?
This is such a tricky question, because I think one of the biggest, most important features of any or characteristics of any successful educator, no matter what type of education, is always going to be self-awareness. So I think understanding the best format in which you are able to convey your knowledge is super important. Now
Mhm.
there are within course creation, there are multiple ways that you can communicate your knowledge. Like it doesn't have to be front camera facing with your face. It doesn't have to be, over professionalized or recorded in a studio. It could very well be delivered in a very different way. But I think the awareness of where do my strengths lie and how do I enjoy interacting with my students? Again, let's say you are just like you are really invested in people, and that's me, right? So I have had the courses where they have no interaction, and I have products that there's not interaction with me, um really like built into it. But for courses, for education, for things that I really want to see a transformation, I want to be able to like communicate with my people. And so I was able for my courses to create like a community that then has a little bit of access, a little bit more access to me. But understanding if you're like, I want to teach the masses or teach to the one, I think understanding where your strengths lie in, like I said, in the formats, but also understanding that there's no hard and fast rules. So I know that's like knowing yourself and knowing what you want out of it and then taking the noise out, because I think we hear course creator and we see a copy paste of the big names, like I said at the beginning of this episode, those same big names telling you like, copy paste, this is the format, this is how you do
Mhm.
it, go. And then it doesn't work and people think, well, I can't be a course creator, when really like they just stifle the creativity in you and they like take anything that's unique to you and get rid of it and tell you to for the possibilities. I think one, and then two is always just like try it out. If you see in the process of creating it that you're not enjoying it, then change the format. Maybe it's more of a retreat. Maybe it's more of a mastermind. Maybe it's more of a talk or a speech that you can then go and teach in person from a stage.
Mhm. Yeah. Is there anyone who should not be a course creator?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely people that shouldn't be course creators. I think people who see, I mean, and again, I always have to give a caveat. Like, there's nothing wrong with making money. I think it's really important. My whole livelihood is helping people who want to create education make money doing it. But I
Mhm.
think if you see it as a quick buck and, oh, well, this person did this course on copywriting and I'm a great copywriter, I'm just going to do it. I think if that's where the thought process stops, then you should not do that, because it's really just going to cheapen your brand at the end of the day because you're going to put out a lackluster, product. I think people who don't care about other people's outcomes or successes, I think people who are inherently selfish, like I hate to say, like I feel like I used to be really careful with these words, and now I'm just like, it is what it is. You might not know you're a selfish person, but like do a gut check. Like if you're like, I really don't care. I just don't care if Amanda takes my course and like whether she sees results or not, not on me. I would maybe not do this, you know? But if you're
Mhm.
like, no, I want people to do well with it and it's important to me and I'm going to take the time to follow up and make sure it's going well, then yeah, have at it. I think it's great.
Which leads me to another one of those common myths, I think, is that courses are passive income, right? Like you can make a course, you can throw it up, and you've mentioned this a few times, like you audit your course, um, having that like interaction with you. It's not just like buy the course and that's it, buy it forever.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Anything else you would say to that, like idea of I'm just going to create a course and make money off of it forever kind of thought
Yeah,
process?
no. I don't know. Like I get it. I get where the phrase passive income like started, but I truly think that unless you have a team that does all the work for you and you are just a figurehead, nothing is passive.
But
If
even
you
then, you're
have
managing the team. Sorry.
Yeah, if you no, you're 100% right. Like there is nothing, truly nothing passive about passive income other than the fact that it make you money in your sleep if you have it on evergreen? Absolutely it can, but like you're still working the hours. You've still got to be like doing things all the
Mhm.
time to like tweak it, to make it right, to do the selling. Like selling and marketing is, as you know, because that's your
Very time
job, like
consuming.
that's its own job. Like all of these things that go into it, and not to mention quality control and making sure that you're out there and checking in with your people. And even if you don't have a community, you still need to be doing things like doing random spot checks and being like, hey, how is this product working for you? How is this online guide working for you?
Mhm.
Um, and so yeah, that's the biggest lie of all time, is that passive income is truly passive. I can't think of anything that you could create that's yours that you have to sell that you could call passive 100%.
So I have two questions off of that. The first is, you mentioned earlier you go in and audit. What kind of things should someone look at when they're auditing their course? And then the second question being, if someone, what are some examples of interactions that you can
Mhm.
set up within your course that aren't running a community? What have you seen other
Okay.
course creators do?
Okay. So I'm gonna answer the first one first. And if I forget the second one, just you're gonna remind me. So the first question was what to look for in an audit when you're
Mm-hmm.
self-audit, right? Okay.
You're
So
self
this
auditing.
process, everybody hates it. Everybody hates it because my first recommendation is to like go through the entire course yourself. And watching yourself for a lot of people can be really, really cringy and like uncomfortable, and you just want to like speed through it. But the thing is that the you that created this course or product, let's say, and by the way, you don't have to audit it every month. Like I would say 1 to 2 years. I try to like skim through it every year, make big changes as they're needed. But if it's, if it's like a little tweak here and there, you can always just add stuff in. But for me, it's been several years, right? So like watching videos, and I re-recorded my videos, so they're not the originals from 2019. But I think I re-recorded it in like 2021 or 2022. So we're still like the me 2 years ago. I don't, she's had her time in the sun. I don't love to watch that, like, but I'm going to make myself watch it and see, is the content still relevant? Can they still get the outcome I want with the content and the information that I've presented? I say all of the things about how uncomfortable it is to watch yourself because I think you have to keep in mind that you're looking for content and not perfection in
Mm-hmm.
delivery. Like my delivery would probably be a lot better if I re-recorded it now, but I'm only going to re-record it if the content warrants a
Yep.
re-record. Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense? So I would look for that. And then I would also, I mean, I always like, as part of my audit process, I always like to like get on a call with somebody who maybe has recently gone through with it, or send out a survey and just check in with the people who have gone through it and say, like, is this still working? Is this still like converting into knowledge for you? And if not, that's a sign that you'd have to redo things. But that's kind of how I audit. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're looking at the content itself
Yeah, I'm looking at the
more
content. And
and
of course, like I always want to make sure that the systems are there, especially if you've done, like I've had to change course platforms several times and like I'm in limbo and whatever, but like this,
mm-hmm.
it's good to double check that everything's working, of course. But for me, for the full audit, it's definitely more about the education.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Man, or even just a little bit ago before we hopped on, my husband was sitting here and audit or editing a podcast episode for me, and he had his headphones off. I was like, "Oh, put them on. I don't want to hear it." Like it's so easy to be like, "I just don't want to hear myself. I don't want to watch myself."
Yeah.
But it is so important. Okay, so then the second question being, what are some other ways that we can add interaction in with our students that maybe aren't a community? Because I know something
Mm.
that I'm seeing a lot is nobody wants to be in a Facebook group. No one wants to
Yeah.
run a Facebook group.
Yeah.
There are definitely other ways to do community. Like I've got my membership community in Slack, and that's actually working really great. But especially for those that have a small audience that aren't selling a ton of seats,
Mhm.
running a community can feel really daunting. So, what are some other ways that maybe as they work to build up to that, they could add interaction in with themselves and their students?
Yeah, I think if you are not wanting to run a community at all, that's totally fine. I think ways that I would build in like touch points would be things like assessment checks. So that would be like in your school thoughts, it would be like quizzes and tests and like pop quiz and things like that. So building in just like quick questions or whatever it is, however you're formatting your education. A big one for me is writing out emails that get sent out at a certain point, whether it's, so for example, if your course platform allows this, doing something where if they get to like the second unit or module or whatever you call it, the second piece of your content and they complete it, then it triggers an email that gets sent to them with like some kind of sunshine, some kind of like check-in, some kind of encouragement and a question. Maybe there's a survey involved. Things like that where you're scheduling out communication that feels personalized to the person, but it's obviously like, and it's personal when you create it, but you're being intentional about when and where they're getting it. And then the third thing is, I wouldn't do this for every single student, but especially when you are handpick like 2 or 3 people to just do quick, like 20-minute check-in calls and see
Mhm.
what they're experiencing. Are they enjoying it? Is there something else they wish was there? That helps them and it helps you. So those are kind of like ways I would build it in if you're not quite ready to be like a community leader just yet.
I love that. Those are great ideas. So are there, we've talked about a couple myths about like the passive income and the I don't have a big enough audience. Are there other myths that you see people talking about or that come to you and have been said to you about online education, about course creation that you're just kind of hearing repeated over and over again?
Hmm. I feel like you listed the big ones. We talked about the big ones for sure, and they were all like spot on and so good. I think I kind of had already mentioned before, like the myth that, and I guess it's not a myth, it's just kind of like an unpopular opinion that, like live running something for the very first time you're ever doing it, but also charging for it is to me like a little bit unethical and also really high risk. I think this is more of like a speaking myth than it is like a course creation myth. But people who say, like, oh, well, I don't want to come across as stuffy, so I'm not going to practice or I'm not going to write out my talk. And it's like, that sounds like an excuse for procrastination. As the queen of procrastination, like, I get it. That's something I might have said early in my life too, but that we haven't really talked about.
Yeah. Oh, I can't imagine saying something and then getting up on stage and having
Yeah,
to say it
dude,
was
I
so
know.
vastly
Oh, I guess
better.
another myth is just like that. Well, we kind of already talked about this too, that like creating like hosting anything is like easy or
Mhm.
just fun or like have fun to get like a group of people together in a room and then like magic will just happen. And it's like, no. I mean, magic does happen when you get people in a room, but you have to cultivate that. Like it doesn't
Yeah,
just
it's
happen.
intentional planning.
We've all
Very
been in
intentional planning.
uncomfortable rooms. Like there's a reason that rooms feel awkward or rooms feel warm. It's just like a home. So you've
Which
been to
is
homes that
why
feel, yeah,
your conference is so incredible because you make it feel so naturally comfortable.
I try.
Um, you guys can see all the names of attendees for the next one. I believe tickets are
Yeah,
still
yeah, we
available.
do. We have some left. We're about like, I want to say over 3/4 sold out. So we have a few left, but um, yeah, I love my people. I'm obsessive, clearly.
It's so cute. I love it so much. When you were like posting the stories, I was like, "Where's my name? Let me see." So if you guys want to come join us in March, it's going to be a great time. You're going to learn so much, and um, Laylee does a great job of mixing education and community, which is my favorite thing. She started talking about her membership on Instagram, and I was like, "How do I pay you?" I was like, "You could tell me, you could teach me." Like, you do such a good job of cultivating that community. So, if you're an educator, honestly, the Educators Lounge is the place to be because you're going to meet so many other amazing
Yeah.
educators and learn so much from Laylee and from all of them. And all of, like, just it's the place to be if
Yeah.
you're an online educator or a creative educator in any way, shape, or form, for sure.
Yeah.
And we will
Our
link to that
people
in
are
the show notes
awesome.
as well.
We love our people. They're so good.
You've done a great job cultivating that. Just
Thanks.
yeah, it just feels like home. Such a good place to be. It's funny because the mastermind you mentioned, Sarah was in it with me, and
Yeah.
man, my one of my best friends in the business space is Haley, and we would never would have met without you, and it's just so great.
My
Um,
people.
it's amazing. Okay, this is last call for questions from those of you here with us live. If you want to drop those, this is last call for questions for Laylee about online education, speaking, course creating, curriculum, all of those things. And Laylee, if you had to share just one piece of advice for someone who is a creative educator, what would it be? Which is so open ended.
I know, One Piece. Oh gosh. I guess if I was gonna go like one thing I could literally say is be patient.
Hmm.
That's been like the theme I think of everybody I've been working with lately is like you've got to practice patience. Because if you're going for it and you're doing things in the right way and you've got all your pieces lined up, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And so as cliche as it sounds like just don't give up because if you give up, you could be giving up like a day before things like really go off. So just practice patience as much as you can.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. And it's so applicable for every business owner, really. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just we all have big dreams of I'm gonna start a business and it's gonna take off. And it's like, nope, they never really take off. It's just a slow, like step by step by step by step.
Yeah.
And then you look back and you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
how did I get here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
100%.
So if you could recommend a book, any book, doesn't have to be business related, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, a book recommendation and just one?
Yeah.
You ask hard questions, Amanda.
Okay.
Um,
Well,
because I honestly like right now all I'm reading are like romance novels, so I don't even know
let's
what
hear
to
it.
learn. It's funny. I'm gonna be real. If there's one book I could recommend to anybody, it would be Atomic Habits. But I
Mm-hmm.
would recommend maybe it's the ADHD in me. I would recommend listening to it. And I don't do audiobooks at all because I have ADHD, but I could not read it. I don't know why. But I've listened to it now a couple of times and I swear it's like it is so transformational. It feels like a course in a book.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. But then if you're like, I just want a good romance novel, like we can talk about those all day.
I mean, I'm for it. I am for every recommendation, fiction, nonfiction, all of them.
I love it.
I read too
Yeah.
much, probably.
Same. Same.
All I ever want to do. Okay. Well, I don't see any questions in the chat. So thank you, Laylee, for being here. I'm so grateful. And I appreciate all the work you're doing in the business space because I'm so passionate about education, but there's so much not great education out there. And so I'm just so thankful that you're out there helping lead the way of this is how we do it and this is how we do it really well. So
Yeah.
thank you for
Thank
all
you.
that you're doing.
Thank you. That means so much.
All right. Well, with that, everyone, we'll see you back here next Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific. And if you have any questions for Layla,